When we talk about surrendering to Allah's will, we must begin by rethinking what surrender actually means. In the modern world, the word itself carries a negative tone. We associate surrender with defeat, with loss, with helplessness. We think of it as something that strips us of our freedom, but in the spiritual sense, surrender is the very opposite. It is the moment you stop fighting what was never yours to control in the first place. It is the realization that peace doesn't come from having power over your circumstances, but from trusting the one who already does. You see, every human being is born with a desire for control. We plan, we calculate, we imagine futures that we think will bring us happiness. And yet, no matter how perfectly we plan, life unfolds differently. There is illness, loss, heartbreak, disappointment, events that shake the illusion of control we cling to. And that's where faith begins, because Islam doesn't call you to abandon effort, it calls you to align your effort with trust. It calls you to work hard, but with the understanding that results come only by Allah's permission. That subtle balance, striving outwardly while surrendering inwardly, is the very essence of Tawakkul, reliance upon Allah. The Prophet taught us that true strength isn't in resisting Allah's decree, but in submitting to it with grace. Think about that. Strength in the eyes of this world is often defined by resistance, by the ability to push back, to assert control. But in the eyes of the Creator, strength is the ability to let go of your ego, to let go of your need to always understand the why, to let go of the constant struggle against destiny. Because once you stop fighting Allah's plan, your heart finally finds peace within it. And that peace is not a small thing. It is one of the greatest blessings a believer can experience. When you surrender to Allah, you are no longer a prisoner of anxiety. You no longer live in the exhausting cycle of what if and if only. The mind stops spinning around hypothetical fears because the heart has anchored itself in divine trust. You start to see that every delay, every setback, every unanswered prayer carries a wisdom you might not understand yet, but you know it's there. That's the beauty of surrender. It doesn't require you to see the full picture, it only requires you to trust the artist. From a psychological perspective, this surrender is transformative. When you stop resisting what you can't change, your mind begins to heal. Your nervous system relaxes, your thoughts become clearer, and your emotions settle. Because surrender is not just a theological concept, it is a form of emotional freedom. It releases you from the unbearable burden of thinking you have to control everything. And spiritually, it brings you closer to Allah, because it's in that moment of surrender that your heart truly begins to rely on Him. That's when dua becomes deeper, when prayer becomes real, when faith moves from theory into lived experience. Many of us live as if our peace depends on the outcome of our plans, but peace was never meant to depend on outcomes. It depends on alignment on being aligned with the will of the one who knows what you do not know. When you surrender to Allah, you start to see His wisdom even in the moments that hurt the most. You stop asking, why me? And begin asking, what is Allah teaching me through this? And that simple shift in perspective changes everything, because now life is no longer a battlefield of control, it becomes a classroom of trust. True freedom, then, lies not in having everything your way, but in accepting everything Allah chooses for you with contentment. The believer who surrenders is not a defeated soul, they are a liberated one. They walk through life with calmness, not because everything is easy, but because they have handed over the weight of their worries to the one who never fails. So, when life doesn't go according to your plan, remember, it's still going exactly according to His. And the one who understands that truth lives with a heart at peace, no matter what the world around them brings. One of the greatest obstacles to true surrender is the human obsession with control. We crave it over our lives, our future, our relationships, even our emotions. We plan everything down to the smallest detail because we believe that control equals safety. But the truth is, this sense of control is an illusion, and the moment life exposes that illusion, we are forced to confront our own helplessness. Every heartbreak, every sudden loss, every unfulfilled plan is a gentle, or sometimes painful, reminder from Allah that control was never ours to begin with. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that Allah is al-Muqtadir*, the one who has absolute power over all things. Yet, despite knowing this, we live as if we can manage every outcome on our own. We mistake planning for power, effort for control. But the believer understands that while planning is part of responsibility, the final result belongs to Allah. And that realization changes everything. Because the moment you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you begin to experience a freedom that control could never give you, the freedom that comes from trust. Trust, or Tawakkul*, is not passive. It doesn't mean you sit back and wait for life to unfold while doing nothing. Rather, it means you exert your best effort while recognizing that success or failure, gain or loss are not measures of your worth. They are manifestations of Allah's decree. You still walk your path, but you walk it with a heart anchored in calm certainty, not restless anxiety. You understand that even when your plans are disrupted, you are still within Allah's plan, and His plan never fails. From a psychological perspective, this understanding brings immense peace. The human mind is not built to handle the weight of constant uncertainty. When we cling to control, we live in fear of losing what we have or not getting what we want. But when the heart learns to trust, it stops fighting reality and begins to rest in acceptance. You no longer need to force outcomes. You begin to *flow* with them, confident that every wave is guided by divine wisdom. That shift from resistance to trust is what turns chaos into clarity. And yet, trust is not easy. It requires the humility to admit that we don't know what's best for us. That is perhaps the hardest part, letting go of our ego's voice that insists, I know what I need. But the truth is, we often desire things that would harm us, and we fear things that would help us grow. Allah tells us, but perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you, and Allah knows while you know not. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:216. That verse is not just theology, it's psychology. It's a divine correction to the human tendency of overestimating our wisdom. So, when your plans collapse, it isn't that life is against you, it's that Allah is redirecting you. When a door closes, it isn't rejection, it's protection. What feels like a detour is often the straightest path to where Allah wants you to be. But you'll only see that if your heart is trained to trust, because trust doesn't eliminate pain, it transforms it. It doesn't stop the storm, but it gives you an anchor within it. The believer still feels sadness, still feels disappointment, but underneath those emotions, there is a deeper peace, the peace of knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The illusion of control leads to fear, the reality of trust leads to freedom. One enslaves you to your own expectations, the other frees you to live with faith. And when a believer reaches that level of trust, life no longer feels like a battle to be won, but a journey to be understood. A journey in which every turn, every delay, and every loss is still guided by the wisdom of the most merciful. So the next time you feel everything slipping out of your hands, don't panic, lift them. Because what you're losing isn't control, it's the illusion of it. And what you gain in return is something far greater, the quiet certainty that the one who controls your destiny has never once made a mistake. Pain is one of the most powerful teachers Allah places in our lives. It humbles us, refines us, and ultimately leads us to Him. Yet when we're in the middle of it, pain feels like punishment. We ask asterisk, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Asterisk, but often, the truth is that pain is not a sign of Allah's anger, it's a sign of His love. Because sometimes, the only way to purify a heart that's become attached to the wrong things is through the fire of loss and hardship. Pain is not meant to destroy you, it's meant to strip away everything that stands between you and Allah. Every one of us has a point in life when the things we rely on start to fall apart. A dream that shatters, a relationship that ends, a plan that collapses. And in that moment of loss, the illusion of control vanishes. You realize that no matter how much effort, intelligence, or resources you have, there are moments where you simply can't fix what's broken. That realization, painful as it is the birthplace of surrender. It's the moment when the soul finally whispers, asterisk, Ya Allah, I can't, but you can, asterisk, and that moment of recognition, that turning back to Him, is what transforms suffering into submission. From a psychological perspective, pain forces introspection. It exposes the inner attachments that quietly control us, the things we depend on for validation, identity, or security. When Allah takes something away, He is not merely removing, He is replacing. He is detaching you from the temporary so you can attach yourself to the eternal. But most of us resist this process because we equate comfort with goodness and discomfort with harm. Yet, in reality, growth rarely happens in comfort. The soul expands through discomfort because it's in the moments of struggle that faith becomes real, that dua becomes sincere, and that the heart begins to rely on Allah not just in theory, but in truth. Think of the prophets. Every one of them went through immense trials. Prophet I, Yab Arabic, Tain Arabic, Lam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Halif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Lam Arabic, Halif Arabic. Meme lost his wealth, his health, and his family, yet his heart remained anchored in gratitude. Prophet Yaqub Arabic, Tain Arabic, Lam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Halif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Lam Arabic, Halif Arabic. Meme lost his beloved son for years, yet he said, asterisk, I only complain of my sorrow and grief to Allah. Asterisk, Prophet Muhammad letter F, DFA faced rejection, loss, and betrayal, but through it all, his trust in Allah deepened, not weakened. Their stories aren't meant to be distant history. They are divine reminders that pain is part of the believer's path, not a deviation from it. It is through pain that the believer learns sincerity, humility, and complete dependence on the Creator. When Allah breaks you, it is never random, it is deliberate. He breaks you open so that the light of faith can enter where arrogance, pride, or heedlessness once resided. It's through those cracks that sincerity flows in. That's why some of the most devoted servants of Allah are those who have experienced the deepest pain. Because they have tasted helplessness, and in that helplessness, they discovered the sweetness of reliance. They no longer chase the illusion of control, they live in the reality of surrender. So instead of seeing pain as the end, see it as the beginning. The beginning of a more honest relationship with Allah, the beginning of a softer, more humble heart. The beginning of a life where your strength no longer comes from what you can manage, but from the one who manages everything. Because in truth, pain is not what distances you from Allah, it's what brings you to Him if you allow it to. And that's the paradox of divine love. Allah sometimes withholds to draw you closer, and He breaks you only to rebuild you stronger, purer, and more aligned with His will. So when pain comes, don't let it push you away from Him, let it pull you into His mercy, because every wound that turns you back to Allah was in reality never a wound, it was a doorway. Once the believer truly learns to surrender, a quiet transformation begins to take place within the heart. Life doesn't suddenly become easier, but it becomes lighter. The chaos of uncertainty loses its power, and the noise of anxiety begins to fade into the background. Because the believer who has surrendered no longer measures peace by what happens around them, but by what happens within them. This is where real tranquility, asterisk sakina asterisk, begins. It is not the absence of trials, but the presence of acceptance. It is a deep, unwavering calm that comes from knowing that everything unfolding around you is part of a divine orchestration far more perfect than anything you could design yourself. You start to view life through a different lens. What once felt random now feels purposeful. Every disappointment carries a lesson. Every delay hides a mercy. Every hardship carries within it an opportunity for closeness to Allah. The heart becomes softer, more perceptive. You begin to see not just events, but meanings, not just outcomes, but wisdom. And that is the essence of surrender. It is the shift from asking asterisk, why is this happening to me? Asterisk to asterisk, what is Allah teaching me through this? Asterisk, that single change in perspective can transform your entire experience of life, because when you interpret your struggles as divine communication, even your pain begins to feel sacred. Philosophically, this is one of the deepest dimensions of faith. The human being by nature seeks understanding, we crave reasons. But Allah, in His wisdom, has concealed much of His plan from us, not to confuse us, but to cultivate trust. If we knew the reason behind every hardship, there would be no meaning in faith. Faith is not built on clarity, it is built on confidence in the unseen. The believer learns to find peace not in explanations, but in connection. And that connection to Allah transforms confusion into calm and uncertainty into serenity. From a psychological standpoint, this level of surrender leads to profound inner stability. When you stop fighting what you cannot control, you stop exhausting your mind and heart. You begin to live from a place of *reader* contentment, not the passive kind that accepts defeat, but the active kind that embraces divine will with grace. You realize that peace was never about having a perfect life, but about having a heart that remains at peace regardless of life's imperfections. That's why the Prophet *FDFA said how amazing is the affair of the believer, for everything that happens to him is good. If something pleasing happens, he is grateful, and that is good for him. And if something difficult happens, he is patient, and that is good for him. This hadith captures the psychology of surrender, a mindset where every situation becomes a path toward Allah. And when the heart reaches that state, life's turbulence no longer breaks you. You become steady, anchored. You can smile through difficulty, forgive more easily, and sleep with a calm heart because you know that Allah's decree is not just something to endure. It's something to trust. Even the things that didn't make sense begin to reveal their beauty in time. You realize that Allah's plan was never meant to match your desires. It was meant to fulfill your purpose. Living in peace with the divine decree doesn't mean life becomes painless. It means pain no longer owns you. You can face uncertainty with dignity because you are certain of Allah. You can walk through the darkest valleys without fear because you know who lights your path. You no longer beg for control, you ask for contentment, and that is the mark of a heart that has surrendered completely. So, when life tests you, remember this. Peace is not found when everything goes your way, it is found when your heart goes Allah's way. The believer who surrenders doesn't live in fear of tomorrow, because they've already handed tomorrow to the one who never fails.